Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another Brony Debates Live. I hope you're all doing well. Let's get a good start to the weekend. Today, we've got a jam-packed panel, as you can see. Once again, 6 people on. So hopefully we'll have a lot of interesting stuff to say. Today, we are talking about parenting in Friendship is Magic, as suggested to our other brown horse friend on here, Mr. Hariman. How are you doing today, sir?
I am doing good.
Good. So, real quick, what made you want to talk about this topic?
Well, I was watching the show Centaur World recently, and that goes pretty deep into parenting at
Oh,
points.
geez, well, there's
So
your first
parenting,
mistake.
so parenting was on my mind. And Centaur World is new enough that I don't want to spoil it for everybody. It's a good show. I recommend watching it. So we're going to talk about it in Friendship is Magic and possibly other cartoons.
All right. And there's also one other gentleman joining us today. Never been on the show before. His name is Alex. How are you doing today, Alex?
I'm doing fine, thank you very much.
Nice. So, you guys, you got no way of recognizing him right now, but our guest here, Alex, was in the Brony documentary from 2012, the John Delancey one. Alex, would you mind telling us that story real quick?
Yeah, if you don't mind putting a little couple gray hairs on my head, I just realized that was 10 years ago.
Just
Um,
about. I mean, the filming would have been 10 years ago for certain, but it didn't air until like June or something like that.
yeah, correct. We're still 9 years is a decade. Come on, who are we kidding?
All right, all right.
Yeah, honestly, the first question I get asked the most is, how did I end up being a part of that? Um, and I guess a lot of people just must have missed it because there was a big post about it on EQD back in the day, really early in 2012, for a casting call, and they had displayed specific roles that they wanted to fill in the documentary, and you just submit your story, and they deem if you fit their criteria or not, and I just submitted it for what the heck, I had kind of a traumatic experience, and then after that, I got an email back and a phone call proceeding, and I was on, and there was no
Mm-hmm.
turning back after that.
Yeah. So which one were you?
So I was supposed to fill the role of, I guess the bullying role more than anything, just because, just based on my location, deep in Appalachia, and you know, being surrounded by people who are really set in their ways and don't like things from the outside, and especially those who deviate from societal norms.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I always, even though I lived there, my parents molded me to be a very outside thinker, and read books, and always be on the internet to learn about other cultures, and like don't put my blinders on and just do what everybody else is doing at school, and that there's this whole world out here that I got to learn about. So I felt myself, that I could just be whoever I wanted to be, and that's not what you're supposed to be when you're there, because the local nomenclature is, you're supposed to, just work somewhere locally, just kind of share views with everybody else, and
Yeah,
and
you're born here, live here, die here. Is that about
that's
right?
right, that's right, and nothing outside these mountains, and there's nothing interesting out there, no reason to go out there, don't do anything out there.
Yeah, and I remember back when it came out, I made a review video on it. It was one of my earliest videos. And after you had gotten done telling your story in that, I said, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get you some Krav Maga lessons. I'll be right over. And yeah, because that was certainly rough, the way you got treated out there. But uh, we're glad to have you on now. We're glad you stayed with the fandom for so long. And the ultimate reason we brought you on today was because almost 10 years have passed since you've been on that documentary, and you've got at least one kid of your own, don't you?
I have two actually.
Really?
We
And
just
how
introduced.
old are they?
Oh, just introduced our little boy here at the beginning of November. His name is Destry Andrew.
Oh,
Um,
congratulations.
he's doing well, and I have a 2.5-year-old, Mira Jane, and she is a hellion for sure.
And those
And
terrible
most
twos?
toddlers are, yes, she is. We're just living in her world, and she sets the rules.
That's highly unfortunate. I'm so sorry. Well, let's see here. Let's get into it then. Uh, Big shout out to my generous supporters on Patreon, especially those on the $10 and up tier, especially these are Princess Heather Blossom, Shady Oak Ministries, Sid McConroy, Autoknight, Emerald Spencer, Sodden Girder, Senko, Cal Christensen, DJ Skywalker, Rein-Kun, Morningstar, Pony Cordero, who's joining us tonight, QFlash, Billy Henline, Alden MacManx, Easy Mode Gamer, Sophia, Bootleg Bard has come back to the tier, and Dark Malcontent, author of the Metaverse series. Be sure to check out their links in the description, especially Cordero. He's working on a really good Sunset Shimmer fan fiction right now. So, Cordero, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. What's up, buddy?
Doing pretty good. Cruizer, how are you doing tonight?
Peachy.
Awesome. And DJ, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well after driving for 3 hours.
Yeah, I would be beat
Through nothing.
after after something like that. All right, so Hariman, give us some opening statements here, so we can kick this discussion off the right way. How do you feel about the parenting as shown in Friendship is Magic?
It's pretty bad. It's about 70% bad, 25% good, and 5% wait, what?
Okay, so
And
break those down for us on average. How does it? Why do you assign those percentages?
there are good parents in Friendship is Magic, like Mrs. and Mr. and Mrs. Cake,
We think.
Cadence in Shining Armor. Twilight's parents are actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I put it in 70% bad and 5% wait, what is because even if Friendship is Magic has a really good episode on parenting, typically in the last like 2 minutes, they'll go into a moral that completely undermines the good lessons they have. The best examples I have of this are in Parental Guidance. Rainbow Dash was completely right to call out her parents for being way too supportive.
How do you figure?
Rainbow Dash did do nothing wrong in their eyes, and that's not healthy. I honestly believe that's why Rainbow Dash moved away from her family when she did, when she either got kicked out of or dropped out of flight school, because she could not understand whether she was doing good or bad because her parents were telling her that she could do no wrong. And in the last couple minutes of that episode, they had Scootaloo call her out for yelling at her parents, and Scootaloo is the absolute worst person to call her out on that, because Scootaloo is basically an orphan until they retconned her to be living with her aunts. We saw nothing of parenting for her, and her parents were so bad that in one of my favorite episodes of the series, they actually called out Scootaloo's parents for just not being there and not being a part of her life and trying to steal her away from everything and everyone that she loved. And for Scootaloo to call Rainbow Dash out for being overparented is just the person who's starved for water calling out the person who's drowning for not liking too much water.
So something I'd like to add to that is, to me, it didn't seem very realistic the way that Rainbow Dash turned out, having parents like that, because I've known people with parents like Rainbow Dash's, and you tend to get something a little bit less of what Rainbow Dash's parents were like, in which case they turn out to be well adjusted because they got the support that they needed, mainly the encouragement and usually whatever they needed financially. But we're certainly given the room to improve, or they grow up and turn into total narcissists because they've only ever known that they are perfect. So with that being added onto what Hariman said, Alex, I'd like to hear from you. What did you think about Windy Whistles and Bo Hothoof and their portrayal?
Well, I know we're trying to debate here, but he serves kind of the same view that I would, where she Rainbow Dash could do no wrong in their eyes, for them, and that kind of in my view that would set somebody up for failure, right? So because you're not like the world's never going to meet you halfway, and that's a lesson that a lot of kids need to learn. Honestly, the earlier the better, because they need to be able to strive for themselves, think for themselves, and know that even though your parents may be a support network, it's not always 100% reliable. So you need to be able to function on your own when you are met with scrutiny, and that's one of Rainbow Dash's weaknesses is criticism. She doesn't take it very well, or often she takes it too seriously, and it's self-damaging to her, just because she'll either overtrain for it, or it'll just shut her down emotionally, because it wasn't a perfect, it wasn't perfect performance, and that's what her parents, even if she did awful, her parents were there saying, well, that was a perfect performance, you did what you had to do. And it's in that their little bubble that they live in, that's fine for them, but as the rest of the world looks down upon that, they're like, well, they're just rubbing in a failure to her. I don't know if I'm making sense here or not, but that's just how I kind of portrayed that episode, as not the best parents in the world, and
Well, yeah.
I
So
really didn't grow up with parents like that, so
this is interesting because I always thought that Rainbow Dash was. I mean, aside from instances like that with like Mysterious Ne'er-Do-Well or Wonderbolt Academy, where she gets a little bit of criticism in it, and it not Wonderbolt Academy, but I forgot the one where the title of the one where she actually became a Wonderbolt, because I'm getting Alzheimer's over here.
Oh, I forget too. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I know the episode you're talking about.
Yeah, so aside from like those two off the top of my head, why is my phone still on? The she's relatively well adjusted, which is not something I'm used to with parents like that. But it almost sounds like you're disagreeing with Hariman and I in that it's sort of realistic how Rainbow Dash turned out with the parents that she had. Is that accurate to say?
yeah.
Okay, so does anybody want to add or take away from that then?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking, is that the parent, we may come across some very bad examples of parenting in the show, but I feel like all of the parents match the characterization of the characters, which I would call that good writing for doing that. But it'll also probably be fun tonight to point out all the bad parents.
Mm-hmm. Well, that'll be the ultimate question at the end of the night. But yeah. Can you give us any? Yeah, can you give us any more specific examples of that, Cordero?
Well, with Rainbow Dash's parents, well, we've said that one pretty well. But you mean an example of the characterization matching the parents?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, like Fluttershy's parents. In fact, story-wise, I think Fluttershy's parents are the most interesting, because you look at the parents, you go, okay, that makes sense where Fluttershy came from, and it also makes sense where Vape Smoke, where Zephyr Breeze came from. Just two different directions. Like Fluttershy's like meekness, how she grew up like that, and how Vape Smoke getting just nothing but, oh, you're great, it's fine, you'll figure it out, just being enabled. Her parents are such enablers, of just letting him become a lazy shitlord that he is. And yeah, they're interesting because you see two fallouts of their mistakes of parenting, between Fluttershy being overly meek and then Zephyr Breeze just being a turd. But then through the show, we saw Fluttershy develop into a strong young adult, but with her own challenges. And then you see her go back home and you meet her parents, and Fluttershy is now basically better than her family, or at least what her family prepared her to be. And she's basically the adult in the room being like, you need to do something about Zephyr Breeze. And she can only do that because she overcame the shyness that her parents crippled her with. So that's why I find that super interesting. Like, the bad parenting is literally a tool for storytelling in that case.
Indeed, and to add on to that, we can assume that Fluttershy, as she was growing up, was imitating her parents, which which most kids do in one form or another. But we also saw Fluttershy fly the nest, pun intended, pretty early on as well. Like, she literally dropped out of Cloudsdale and said, okay, I'm going to hang out here on the ground with all these animals that I can pretty much talk to. And from there, she was kind of thrust outside of her usual environment. And she, stagnated for however long between the events of Cutie Mark Chronicles and the beginning of Friendship is Magic.
Yeah.
But then once she started getting more social, she was sort of forced to grow into her own person and become the assertive one from her family. Would anybody else like to add or take away from what I just said?
I can't blame Rainbow Dash for being a little peeved with her parents. I mean, come on, they saved her first diaper, for Christ's sake. Soiled, no less.
That's not weird. Totally not weird.
Alex?
Very weird.
Not the time for that.
Alex, you're the parent here. Is that weird?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe a little weird. A little bit weird.
So I can't blame Rainbow for getting a little angry with her parents. It's because, guys, calm down. Like, my parents supported me too, but they never went that overboard. As for Fluttershy's parents, I often wonder, how did Zephyr Breeze get corrupt?
Oh, because of the enabling.
His parents could never say no.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And if I could-
Twilight's...
Go ahead.
Well, Twilight's parents, we didn't really see that much of. We saw even less of Rarity's parents. And AJ's folks have been Disneyed out for some ever since the start of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seems like if anything, it seemed like Granny Smith just raised them.
Yeah, Granny Smith is the greatest parent in the show.
Yeah,
Granny Smith definitely raised Applejack and Sweetie Bloom. I think
Sweetie Belle.
Big Mac.
Sweetie
Belle,
Bloom
right?
is a content creator.
Apple Bloom.
Apple Bloom.
Oh, we're both wrong. But you messed me up. It's your fault. You messed me up too.
I accept the blame.
I'm getting.
I
that
think
point,
Big
too.
Mac did actually get some time with his parents, but not a lot, given how little he knows about them.
Mm-hmm.
But to expand on Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy, one of Rainbow Dash's big arcs through the entire series is actually learning humility and that she's not the best at everything and that she has a lot to learn. And with Fluttershy becoming the adult in the room, I've literally seen that with members of my own family where sometimes the parents are bad and the children actually do become the adult in the room. Which
Yeah, that's a little more typical with narcissistic parents.
like Diamond Tiaras.
I don't know how well her mother certainly is, but I don't know about Filthy Rich. Filthy Rich seems like an all right guy. I couldn't tell you anything that's like blatantly wrong about him. He always seems to be trying to level with people and work with them, and he happens to come from money. So I don't know. What do you think, Hariman?
honestly, Filthy Rich is a decent parent, but he married a complete narcissistic, awful person, to be kind.
Mm-hmm.
And Spoiled Rich deserved every bit of being called out by her own daughter that she got in Crusaders of the Lost Mark.
So I guess if we were to headcanon for Filthy Rich, he's an all right parent. He just needs to be around more, because that's something. Now that I think about it, he seemed sort of absent.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he's not there quite enough, but he is there and he does care for his daughter. It's just that his wife is an awful, narcissistic, selfish female of canine persuasion.
Yeah, but did you hear what DWK said? She can suck a cork through a wine bottle.
Yeah, nobody cares about that in this context. So let's
Says
try
you.
to let's try to get back on track here. DJ, how did you feel about how parenting as a whole was depicted in Friendship is Magic?
As a whole, I don't think it was bad, but I think it was. I suppose I want to say it was very good at showing different parental relations. Personally, I think the best one that was ever shown was Twilight's parents.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to be the most steady and the most relatively involved with their kids and supportive.
Mm-hmm.
At least from what we've seen in flashbacks, like
And
the flashback in the 200th episode, where
yeah,
they were like they did the friendly competition with the stars between the different kids.
right, and we also had the flashback during Cutie Mark Chronicles where they were doing what they could to help Twilight.
Only to get turned into plants.
That's what happens sometimes. Magic is a strange thing.
Yeah, and it was nice seeing their own little quirks. Like Velvet's a bit of a adrenaline junkie,
Mm-hmm.
while the father is an organization freak.
So how do we feel about that dynamic and how it manifested itself in potentially influencing Twilight and Shining Armor?
To be honest, I don't think we just got enough on any of the parents. I mean, the very little that we did get, it's not much. I will say, at least with Twilight's parents, yeah, we got a little bit more with them. I do think it was kind of interesting that the mother was the adventurer and the father, was more of the, we'll say, crossword puzzle type of person.
Mm.
But
What do you mean by that?
he reminds me of the kind of person who'd be sitting back in his chair at his old age, just doing crossword puzzles out of a book.
Okay. Crossword puzzles is slang for something else. I'm not sure if you knew that.
Since when is that slang?
It's Coke. Doing crosswords is slang for doing Coke.
This is the first time I've
heard.
Heard of it.
So you said he's kind of the crossword. I was like, what? For a second.
You're running some strange circles, my friend.
Cordero, you need to start going back to church, man.
Apparently, do more crosswords.
But to be honest, I don't really see much of that passed down to their kids. I mean, you could arguably say that Shiny took after his mother because he is captain of the Royal Guard. But even then, that's not really meant to be like an adrenaline pumper thing. It's just meant to serve in combat. Twilight's dad, Nightlight, I think that's his name. Like I said, he just seems like the kind of person who'd be sitting down doing crossword puzzles, but I don't really see that connecting that much to Twilight.
The bookish nature, perhaps, the being able to sit down and concentrate and study for a while. I mean, it's a stretch, but that's where
well, she definitely does have an obsession with organization.
Yeah, and
from what little we got of her father, he is a sucker for it. So, as he said.
So while we're on the subject of Velvet and Nightlight, what did we think about how they whatever? I mean, we didn't see much of their parenting strategies, but is there anything in that episode, Once Upon a Zeppelin, that they could have done better as Twilight's parents to try to help her?
You mean other than read the contract?
Well, that's I don't know that has much to do with them as parents specifically. If you're handed a contract, you should read the freaking contract.
If anything, I know more people had an issue with Shining Armor and Cadence in that episode.
Yeah.
Not so much with Twilight's parents.
Well, Shining Armor and Cadence are certainly on the chopping block for today as well. But I don't know. Guys, what did you think?
I guess the thing they could have done in my book was make it clear that Twilight shouldn't be obligated to hold to a contract that they signed without reading.
Now the
And they should have called out
Iron Will.
Man McGoat.
Yeah,
Iron Will.
So
Yeah.
so here's the thing about that though is would Twilight have listened, because Twilight was worried about disappointing everybody on that Zeppelin. So she volunteered for it, and I do believe that Velvet at the very least was like, "Hey, you don't have to do that," and Iron Will just kind of successfully guilt tripped her into it.
It's possible that Twilight wouldn't have listened because she does have her mother's headstrong side combined with her father's love of organization and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she definitely got suckered into signing the contract. She was overtly excited, and Iron Will took advantage of that. You can tell.
Mm-hmm. So, is there anything that Alex? Is there anything you think we could pull from that episode as a net positive or a net negative on how to raise your kids essentially?
The reason I'm staying quiet on this one is it just says this episode is so distant in my memory. I'm so faded. Honestly, I've completely forgotten about what goes on with it.
Oh, geez, did you not like it, or how can I trigger some memories here and bring it back up?
I don't think that the episode was particularly memorable in that case. I do remember bits and pieces of it, but as a whole, I couldn't play it out in my head.
All right, so and we didn't really see much parenting going on there, so it might be a bad example for an episode there. So I think we've all touched on our general thoughts of how parenting was portrayed in the show. So let's go around the table here and ask what do we think was the worst thing that any of the parents did in their in whichever episode, and why that's not so good. And we'll start with Alex for this one. Do you have any thoughts?
For this one, I gotta go with Scrootaloo's. I understand that work can be very important to people. Whatever it is you do. But when you have a child, your obligations need to change a little bit, and it's supposed to change you biologically. We're designed to protect this thing that we created, and having such little connection that you can just drop the child. I'll drop her off at my sister's or whatever, and I'm gonna go work, and we're gonna go have this awesome, expedition or whatever, and just go live our best lives. And we'll check in with you every now and then that's, we assume that's good parenting. No, I don't think so, and I think that's why, Scootaloo, she definitely had a lot of separation anxiety, I guess, from that. That's went unchecked, and that's a lot of her insecurities may come from that, or stem from that at least. And we don't have a whole lot to go off of because we literally got one episode on this that to touch on her parents.
Yeah, we're going to be grasping at straws tonight because we got pretty much one episode for each character.
One of them, yeah. And I guess I can tie that into with like our last conversation with Twilight. with her father, I would imagine that they would have lived in such a structured household, and with her mother just wanting to break away from that just a little bit to have fun. That's kind of what gets her rocks off. It's just like let's do something that's not on the list tonight. Let's just change up dinner, or go out and do something fun, and that's not scheduled or structured or anything like that. And I think those two qualities kind of stemmed into Twilight developing with, yeah, I want to, everything needs to be perfect, and I made my list and everything's good, and then there's that little bit of her mom inside of her that says, well, what if it isn't? Because we could just break away and do something else. And I think that's where Twilight's anxiety comes from, is the combination of them two. But as far as damaging your children, I think Scootaloo's parents take the cake on this one.
Yeah, I mean, like, say whatever you want about Sharon and Ozzy Osbourne. They at least took their kids on tour with them because they wanted to raise them. They may not have been, the model parents, but at least they didn't just leave them with someone.
Being there is half the battle.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, now let's consider what those two characters did, and I'm sorry I forgot their the names of Scootaloo's parents. DJ, can you help me out with that while I ramble here? So that was shown in that episode. That
I know her mom is Maine Allgood.
All right, yeah, it's probably
Shutter Speed. Was that the other one? Shutter something.
Shutter Speed is the name of one of my assistant editors.
Snap Shutter and Maine Allgood.
Snap Shutter and Maine. Yeah, so they were talking a lot about how they sort of had a duty to Equestria, and that the zoological work that they were doing was very important in helping understand the animals and making everyone really safer. So if you end up with a child one way or another, and you sort of play that role, then what do you do? Because you can't exactly bring Scootaloo or baby Scootaloo around a crocodile or something like that. She's gonna get eaten, right? So so Alex, what would you do in that situation if you were in their horseshoes?
Well, hypothetically, it's easier to say than to act on it, but again, that's a conversation they needed to have before Scootaloo was even contemplated. Was to are we fit to be parents? Can we take the time aside to raise and be morally obligated and physically obligated to raise this child? At least until she can function for herself, and be there and to guide her and do everything we need to do. And if the answer to any of those questions was no, and then they just needed to look into alternatives, whether, can they function on the job one at a time, and, they just take shifts on doing the parenting, or, at least make an effort to try to be there, in today's world, we have the convenience of video calling and a lot faster means of communication than just mail or magic or whatever, what have you. But that's besides the point. Look into seeing, well, do we have help? Can we get somebody to replace us, or if we do have to do this one-on-one co-parent job shift, can we have somebody to come along to help us with this?
Calbeck is in the chat and he says it's better that her parents are still alive, but it's still not good that they're based on real life people like Steve Irwin, who still had time for his kids.
That's correct.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people in my life that one of them actually tried really hard to conceive his daughter, but he travels for work, and it was never certain if he, like, even to the day of an event like a birthday or Christmas or something like that, it was never certain even till the day before if he was going to be there or not. And I remember that being slightly a point of contention with the family, and his daughter was always very happy to see him, and all I could think of growing up was, if I was in that position, I would not have kids if I was good, because you can either settle and have kids or you can travel, and I don't see a way to reconcile that. But some people can make it work, and maybe it just takes time. Um,
It definitely takes a certain type of mindset to be able to handle that kind of thing because it's like the line of work that I got into with being, getting into logistics and shipping and routing stuff like this. So before I had children, I had no problem working a night shift and being away, sleeping during the day, or anytime I had to drive a truck, I'd be out for extended periods of time, being away from the home for 8, 10, 11 weeks before I'd come home. But the moment I decided to have children, or we felt we were ready for it, I immediately, went to going regional, where I would only be away, every other day. And it was only for the first little bit because it started to wear down on me as I was away because I was missing so much. And it definitely breaks down to what kind of a person you are, because a lot of people, they either choose to be really involved with their children, and unfortunately some not so, because they just don't have a connection there, and they just don't see how important it is to be there when your child has milestones like first steps, first words, winning a first ball game, something like that, and then like I have fear of missing those things, so I started, even if it was taking substantial pay cuts or working unfavorable shifts, if it was meaning more home time, I was gonna do it because I wanted to be there for my children. So that's just the role I take. But I know a lot of people, some people just they're like, well, I mean, it's my kid, but my wife's watching it or my girlfriend's watching it. I'll just get in when I can get in.
A common
And
sentiment.
if I could add,
go
my
for
2
it,
cents
Hariman.
on, from the perspective of the child with parents who are always working, if you're not going to be there for your kids every day and you're stuck working 12-hour shifts on weekdays, you have to make sure that there is time specifically with the child to be a parent, to be there as a parent for them. You can't just be there on the weekend and be exhausted and sitting in the recliner watching TV with the child as the family time. You have to specifically parent the child. You have to be there for the child. You have to connect with the child. Otherwise, you might as well not be there at all. And you'll end up raising a Gen X kid where they raise themselves or their older siblings raise them.
That I wouldn't say that specifically to Gen X, but something I've heard people say a lot is that as long as a kid has, as long as most kids have shelter and food, they're not going to notice if there's not a whole lot of money to go around the house. But they definitely notice if you're not there, and you can get money, but you can't get that time back.
I will also state that it is not universal for Gen X, but it is a common thing that
it was kind of a shots fired comment, though.
There was a section of Gen X parents that did that. It was not all parents. I don't cast that on everybody in that group.
Yeah, I know what you mean. The latchkey kid generation. There was a
exactly.
Obviously not everyone. It's never everyone, but it was a very common thing in that generation.
Cruizer, you were trying to say something.
Well, then also, it is helpful because I know that there's the issue of single parents, or the topic of single parents, I should say. And honestly, a child needs a mother and a father. I remember, I'm pretty sure all of us here are familiar with the band Slipknot, right? Okay, well, the singer Corey Taylor, he had a therapy session not too long ago. And because apparently, let's face it, if you ever read Slipknot lyrics, you can pretty much tell that the singer is a little screwed up. And one thing that he revealed in this therapy session was his dad was never around. He was raised by his mother and his grandma, and he wanted to make sure that despite his job, he's around for his kids. And that's when the therapist revealed to him that a child does need a mother and a father in the house to have, the best possible chances at development.
Yep, and there's been a lot of psychological studies that echo something very similar. Even better if it's the biological parents, but that's not always possible. Let's move on a little bit here. Hariman, this is your topic tonight. What do you think is the worst example of parenting in Friendship is Magic, and why?
Well, we've already covered the initial set of examples I had.
Yeah.
The one big example I have is technically not a parenting episode, but it actually deals with... it is the episode Yakety Sax, where Pinkie Pie is pretty much destroying the world with the Jovita phone. And the way that her friends handled Pinkie Pie not wanting to practice her Jovita phone in an area where it's safe and she's not blowing up people's eardrums and destroying the world is to throw her a party and tell her that everybody loves her, which is pretty much the exact wrong way to handle someone, especially a child, doing something that's disruptive. Where that's not how you get correction of the bad behavior. That's how you get a spoiled brat. And that's pretty much the... If you follow this, you will probably make a narcissist child episode that I can't even watch because it's that bad.
Yeah, that just about every aspect of that episode was so incredibly bad. Anybody want to add or take away from that?
It was just a bad episode.
I never watched that episode. I skipped it.
So, Hariman, what would you do differently if you were in that situation as a parent?
Honestly, just explaining to the person who's being disruptive that there's a time and place for practicing the instrument, and that they can play it, they can practice it, but they can't just wander around where they're going to destroy a crop of apples or wreck a building that's under construction or destroy someone's eardrums.
Yeah.
And reassure them that they're still loved. They're not going to be unloved for the fact that they can't play the instrument there. And just make sure that they do it on an appropriate time and place where it's not disruptive.
Cordero, the worst example of parenting techniques in Friendship is Magic, and why?
Oh gosh, I was trying to think of something other than what I already said, which is Fluttershy's parents. It's really hard in my brain to beat Fluttershy's parents because I just hate enabling so much. And you just look at Zephyr Breeze and say, the state rest, you're the worst parents in the show. I hate him so much. He's so bad. He's intentionally bad. I'm not saying this is bad parenting does not equal bad writing. I've already covered that tonight. He's intentionally bad, but I just look at it and it's like, this is your fault. You created this. And not just you actively created this by enabling. A lot of stuff are a result of bad parenting indirectly. You made a bad parenting decision and it resulted in stuff. But Zephyr Breeze, every time you refuse to say no, you actively created this monster that is now Fluttershy's problem because she's the only adult in the room ready to step up and do something about it.
And then society's problem because
yes,
it's not maintainable forever, And we all know at least one person like Zephyr Breeze in one way or another. And what are they supposed to do if they go their whole lives like that? Eventually, their parents are going to be too old to take care of them. And then what? Yeah. If they're too old to take care of you, or God forbid they die while a piece of trash like you is still alive, and then you're just out in the world and ruining everybody else's life, actively draining on society, Zephyr Breeze.
Yeah, and I would argue that spoiled rich, or spoiled milk, as she's jokingly called, which I find freaking hilarious. I went looking for pictures of her and posted them in chat, which I wish I could show everybody.
I saw.
Because they're hilarious. Oh my god, spoiled milk has so many underrated faces. Like, go Google spoiled milk, like, right now. With MLP. I don't know what you'll get if you just Google spoiled milk. Make sure you put MLP in the tag. But the faces are hilarious. But I would argue that spoiled milk is a better parent than Fluttershy's parents. Because, yeah, she raised a spoiled brat, but she still instilled her with discipline, responsibility, like there were still ethics in, like she was actively involved. There's a lot of fallout, negative fallout, like she's a spoiled brat and all of that, and that's hashed out in the show, but at least she did put some sense of ethics into Diamond Tiara, whereas the enabling and the lack of ethics is what led to Zephyr Breeze. And I would argue that Zephyr Breeze is worse, way worse for society than a Diamond Tiara before her reformation.
They at least taught her something.
Yeah. And see, Diamond Tiara also got better, but even before she got better, I would still rather have a Diamond Tiara around than a Zephyr Breeze around.
All right, so what would you do differently in their situation?
Literally anything. Like something. What I would do differently would be to do something as opposed to nothing. It's the easiest one.
Yep. Okay, DJ, what do you got for us?
The worst parenting in MLP. Well, I mean, it's obvious. The worst parents are the apples because they died. How dare they?
That is a sarcasm. That is a low blow, sir.
Cordero was going to take that one, but no.
I should have. Well done.
Honestly, I would say the worst parents are Rarity and Sweetie Belle's parents.
How so?
Disagree.
Well, you guys were talking all over about Scootaloo's parents, who I think are maybe not the best parents, but I think they're better than Rarity's ones because at least they have a proper reason to not be in their lives. Where Rarity's parents just dropped off their kid and went on a vacation for 9 seasons, only appearing once.
Well,
after that.
To be fair, it seemed like Rarity had already moved out of the house by then. It seemed like she had her own business going, and I got the impression that Sweetie Belle was staying with them.
And she was, but then sometimes oftentimes, in fact, I think more often than not, she's shown staying at Rarity's house.
Or at least over there. I think they didn't really go over it, but I think that the one episode they were in like season 1, 2, it was early.
Season 1, when they basically created the CMC.
Yes, the one episode where the parents went, I think they implied through that episode that Sweetie Belle lives with her parents, but they just needed Rarity to watch her. And even though she's around her sister a lot in the rest of the show, I think she still lives at home and is with her parents. I would say her parents are they're the most normal, like regular parents. Like I don't have any major notes for them because
that's not the take I got, honestly.
Well, see, we took different things from the same episode because that to me that implied that we're going on a vacation this one time. Can you watch your sister? And then presumably when they're back from that vacation, they're just back to being her regular parents in regular life. That was my assumption.
See, I would take that assumption if we ever saw them again.
Right.
They appeared, I believe, once more in the Christmas episode and have never been even in the background.
Yeah, citation needed on that one. So we basically have to assume. We just have to assume. We just assume different things.
Alex,
Correct.
were you trying to say something?
No, I agree with, they're, not the best characters to build in, and I just think that, honestly, they were probably forgotten about when it comes to storyboarding and stuff like that. But I think that Sweetie Belle is the most put together out of all the little fillies. So I think she's doing just fine, and I think a lot of that has to do with her parents and with her time spent with Rarity as well. She got some pretty good lessons out of her.
Sweetie Belle is definitely the voice of reason in the CMC, and this is where we, can have a completely different conversation about types of intelligence, but Apple Bloom was shown to be the most mechanically smart, and Sweetie Belle was the voice of reason, and Scootaloo was the most physically smart, probably most sociable, if that makes sense. But anyway, Rarity's parents, if I were to headcanon, is sort of the reason why Rarity is the way she is. because we see Rarity with a lot of like she's always trying to go out of her way for other people and trying to fit in. And I think part of the reason with a higher crowd are people that are like her, and I think the reason for that is because nobody else in her family has literally anything in common with her aside from the fact that two of them have white coats. Her father is a hick with no fashion sense. Her mother is a Milwaukee stereotype with no fashion sense. And
I was gonna say they're from Miami.
yeah, well, they got that. They've got that. They definitely don't put as much thought into their clothing as Rarity does. They don't talk anything like Rarity does, which almost leads me to believe that Rarity was like, hey, I want to be like this crowd that's not like my parents, so I need to completely unlearn the way that I talk because I learned how to talk from my parents who talk like, you know, they're from the the Midwest of the United States, you know. And then there's Sweetie, who doesn't really have anything in common with her either, but tries to emulate her nonetheless. So, you know, that's what happens. You get people like Rarity when you don't have anything in common with your kids at all. But I'm not sure that's really anybody's fault. What do you guys think?
In the defense of Rarity and Sweetie Bloom or Sweetie Belle's parents, Rarity and Sweetie Belle are two of the best put together of the cast. They're the ones who have the least problems, barring Rarity's tendency toward drama. So, I honestly think that the biggest problem that Rarity's parents have is that they take advantage of their daughter as a babysitter too often, which is why Sweetie Belle is around Rarity so much.
Alrighty then, and I think that just leaves DJ. Or no, wait. No, we were on DJ. I'm sorry. So DJ, what would you do differently in that situation?
Well, first off, actually interacting with Rarity more often. Because the few times they did appear, they're either alone or with Sweetie. And it's almost never both of them.
All right. Yep, go ahead.
I think they gave a very bad first impression to where the one I see the most in the fanon, at least, is that they're always on vacation. That's the impression they gave. And to me, that shows them as even more neglectful than the main complaint being Scootaloo's parents.
They're like those
because
parents.
At least they're off doing important research. They're just off dicking around.
They're like those parents from Matilda.
I've never seen Matilda.
Alrighty then. Well, that reference is going to get lost on you.
I understood that reference. Yeah, there's some bad parents. There's no parents that bad.
No, not explicitly, but that was also the perpetually on vacation parents. But yeah, that was a whole level of abuse. We never saw anything close to that in this show. At least in this show, all of the parents had good intentions. All right, so that brings us around to Cruizer. Cruizer, what's the worst parenting you saw on the show, and why?
Well, we pretty much already saw it with Scootaloo's parents, but we have. I wouldn't say these people were the worst, but we just haven't talked about them, and that was Shining Armor and Kanan's.
Okay, why is that?
Well, as we stated in Once Upon a Zeppelin, it seemed like they were not, at least caring to Twilight, because apparently Twilight got upset because she missed something. She shed a tear, and Shining Armor didn't even say anything about it. Dude, it was dark. Okay, it was nighttime. Probably couldn't see it.
They sure as heck don't do a very good job disciplining their overpowered alicorn daughter.
Yeah, I tried to give the writers a bit of leeway on that because it seemed like the guidebook was already written, and it seemed like they just forgot about the whole thing that they wrote about alicorns in there.
Well, that's not the point. They had a a baby in their terrible twos running around, which is bad enough on its own, and then it was an alicorn. So anything she touched just freaking exploded.
Well, basically, I do know that there were. It was in the oh my god, the Equestria Games episode where there was a little thing that unicorns could walk through that would deplete their magic temporarily. Mm-hmm. They definitely should have done that with Flurry Heart.
All right, and so give me something a little more specific to work with here, and tell me what you would do differently in that situation.
Well, I don't think they're that bad of parents. I just think, as you said, they definitely let their alicorn baby get away with a bit too much. Yeah, okay, it's a baby. It doesn't know any better. But it has reality-bending spaghetti powers that are, like, up there with Pinkie Pie at this point. Mm-hmm. It's like, you needed to do something about this here. Like, send it through one of those little portal thingies and temporarily disable her magic. All right. Okay, this thing can actually blow a hole in the wall through a sneeze. You need to do something here.
But that's going to have the problem. You ever seen the picture of the toddler tamers? Has anybody else seen the picture of the toddler tamers?
Nope.
No.
This was a product that you could supposedly buy. They were literally ankle weights for babies, right? They were padded ankle weights like Cordero, like the kind that we sometimes wear when we're working out. Right, and
oh my god, I'm looking this up right now.
Yeah, and the joke is like, okay, so now you've got a 2-year-old that's never skipped a leg day. There's no way that won't potentially backfire. So, Alex, why don't you tell me what you think that would be like if your 2-year-old could just outrun you and kick a hole through your chest because you thought it was a good idea to put 5-pound ankle weights on it when.
That's one of those Band-Aids situation where it may work shortly, but in the long term, you're going to give your kids some mighty strong legs, and they're pretty destructive by themselves. My little girl, she's got some power to her, and she can destroy an entire house over a day. As far as just making a chaotic mess throughout every room.
That sounds like it's coming from experience.
Yep. So, making her stronger, definitely not a recommended product.
Yeah, so that's what
you can do with them, but just tire them out as fast as you can and then straight to nap time.
Yeah, so that's what Cruizer is suggesting we do. He wants the toddler tamer equivalent on Flurry Heart.
Have you seen the damage she can do?
Pudding.
I honestly think that they could make a version of that magic dampening spell that would let Flurry Heart have some of her magic power, but would just keep her from potentially killing someone if she hits someone with a sneeze burst.
I mean, they literally did that at the end of the crystalling, so it's all a moot point, but it's still funny to think about.
True. I also think there's more justification for a leash for a rampant 2-year-old than there is for the toddler tamers.
Well, you see, that was when I was, because I'm next year, and I was going to get to my bad version of parenting, and I'm stuck between Shining Armor and Cadence for how inattentive they are and how often that kid just gets out of their sight and runs rampant and destroys things on a massive scale. Even with the dampening, she's still blowing things up. She's still knocking over other kids, and they almost never really do anything about it. The only one that ever tried to discipline Flurry Heart was Twilight, and then Twilight immediately double backed on it, which is something I would never do.
Twilight's
play, and that's the episode I forgot for parenting is Twilight disciplining Flurry Heart, and then immediately they have Twilight be Flurry Heart's friend instead of staying the parent.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that I'm between that and what else was I? There was another character whose parents sort of drove me up a wall, and I've lost it. Oh man, I'm mad about that.
Side
Okay.
character or main character?
It was a side character. And
Was it the fossil kid?
no, it wasn't the fossil kid. That was just a one-off. But no, that's what I was gonna say is that you've got a kid like Flurry Heart, and
The cakes.
the cakes were good actually. The cakes did everything they could do.
Besides the infidelity.
Sure, okay, Edgelord. Recessive genetics are a thing. All right, so, yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to stick with that because I lost my train of thought and I don't know who else I was gonna talk about. You know what's gonna happen?
Womp.
It's gonna hit me like a brick in 10 minutes here, and I'm gonna.
Well,
No,
you
you-
think of that.
Yeah.
I actually want to go back to Spoiled Rich compared to
Yeah.
Fluttershy's parents.
Go ahead.
I like it.
I think they're both on the same level of bad, but for completely different reasons. Fluttershy's parents are just the completely wimpy, enabling parents who either create a copy of themselves who's the scared wallflower like Fluttershy, or the spoiled rotten brat in Zephyr Breeze.
Oh, I see what you're saying. They're like
Um,
opposite ends of the spectrum. I'm sorry. You were done.
Yes. And
Wait,
Spoiled Rich had Diamond Tiara not gained perspective from actually getting her comeuppance in losing the election, and then actually talking with the kids she was bullying who were actually nice to her. The most likely thing that would have happened was Diamond Tiara would have been another Spoiled Rich and would have continued the cycle of abuse. So both of them are awful parents, but for completely different reasons, and they both were making the same type of spoiled, selfish child
Yeah.
who would just go on to hurt everyone around them because they don't understand that other people are people.
All right, and now I'm going to wrestle this back here because I have I went on to Google and I typed in MLP FIM parents, and it jogged my memory of what I was going to say here. So I was between Shining Armor and Cadence, Pinkie Pie's parents, because how do you fail to connect with your daughter on such a level that you get someone like Pinkie Pie?
What?
And now I understand sometimes kids go off and do their own things, but I rarely see it on such a level like that. And then the other example I was going to bring up was and I know they're not brother and sister here, and this is not technically one set of parents, but Sunburst's mother, Sunny Flare, and Starlight's father, whose name I can't remember. Somebody help me out with that. Really bad at arguing, really bad at trying to connect, really bad at projecting onto their kids and not really understanding or having a whole lot of empathy. Firelight, thank you very much for what they're going through. So, Cordero, it sounded like you disagreed with me pretty hard there. Go ahead and hit me with it.
Just with the Rock family. Well, before I can disagree with you, I need to make sure. I need to see to what level of wrong you are. What do you mean by the Rock family failed to connect with their daughter and thus she did her own thing? Can you explain that?
There we've got 5 rock farmers and then
Yes.
Pinkie Pie.
Okay.
There's some resemblance of personality. Like how often do you really meet somebody that just is absolutely nothing like any of their parents to anything?
It happens.
It's called the redheaded stepchild.
Quite literally in this case, it happens. That happens.
It's
So wait, you're telling me that because Pinkie Pie developed a completely divergent personality from the rest of her family and went off to do her own thing, that's a failure of parenting in the form of they couldn't connect with their own daughter. Is that what you're saying before I lampoon this?
Something to that. They weren't present at all. Like Pinkie Pie felt the need to get up and leave at such a young age. It's almost as bad as what Fluttershy had to do.
No, she wanted to find her own way in life because she developed different passions, and her parents let her do it and were supportive. She had a loving family that raised her well and raised her to be a rock farmer. She found other interest, and the family like, well, you have other interests? Of course you can go pursue those other interests. That's good parenting. Like, sometimes you get a divergent person or a divergent personality in a family of otherwise samey people, and they handled it beautifully. They said, clearly you have other passions to explore in life. We love you and support you in exploring those. And then she did, and look at her now. She's still super close to her family, has a very close relationship with her parents and all of her sisters, and they love and support her back while being a different set of personalities themselves. This is the opposite of bad parenting. This is fantastic parenting, and I'm changing my argument. These are the best parents in the show. This was what I was looking for. You couldn't be more wrong. Just because Pinkie's different, therefore parents bad?
You know something? I think.
Well, they did let a 10-year-old wander the country on her own,
and that was literally going to be my only.
So did Pokemon. It's fine.
Alex, you're a parent here. Is this something that you fear will happen with your kids?
No, actually. I mean, I gotta agree with them where, they did a really good job. They just let her keep to her own, and, she's doing her own thing, but I'm not getting in the way of it. It's not that they were very disapproving of it or anything. I just, in my headcanon, Pinkie Pie was just kind of the girl that just went on the Rumspringer and then never came back.
Yeah.
That is literally what it was, though. I mean, they made that family very Amish.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right. I'll have to concede that point. What about Stellar Flare and Firelight?
The rain. Oh wait. Oh, okay. The
Starlight and Sunburst parents.
yeah.
They're similar to Spoiled Rich and Fluttershy's parents, but not as extreme. And their episode is one of the ones where I'm glad their kids call them out.
Were they
because both parents were being overbearing and controlling in that episode, and to see the kids just say, "Enough! I'm my own person. We need to. This isn't working," is a good thing.
Yeah. Were they confirmed to be single parents?
As far as we know, yes.
No.
They were not confirmed, but they also didn't show their spouses.
They did.
In the show. They did have spouses.
Sunburst.
For Sunburst?
His mom and dad appeared in the flashback.
Okay, because they had both of those parents were giving me single parent vibes, and I think that would have been the right choice to make them both single parents, because it would explain the whole overly doting, overbearing, but yet still very loving and supportive.
From what I understand, there's a behind the scenes little bit of trivia here, is that they had both parents written for both characters, but for the purpose of the episode that they were in, they couldn't fit them in. They couldn't fit them both in and have it all be relevant to the plot.
Makes sense.
Yeah, Josh Haber told me that.
Okay, so that became an episode convenience thing. Well, I think they should have been single parents. I think it makes that episode and their personalities make more sense if they're single parents, because that's where they get they're trying to be both parents and shower, and also and not just single parent, it's also an only child thing, where you're really overbearing of your one child, but you're also really loving and supportive, but you don't realize how much you're smothering them, and that was a cool storyline that they did. I think that those are both good parents, but they were just smothering, and they needed to learn to give their kids space. And that's what that episode was about, was them learning to give their kids space and acknowledging that they'd grown up. But they're otherwise good parents.
Which is roughly what I was going to say in terms of what I would have
Yeah.
what I would have done differently. But seriously, Firelight, how bad do you have to mess up to make Starlight glimmer?
Oh, did you?
Dude, she had a
Well, he
black metal
supported her goth phase.
I'm sorry, what was that, DJ?
Cruizer and I were basically the same thing, that he supported her goth craze.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And he never even changed her room out. I will never get over that face he made when he told her, "Hey, your room is still the same as it was when you were a kid."
She's like, oh no.
The curtains are drawn, there's skulls all over the place.
Yeah. Listen, there's nothing wrong with a goth phase. Everybody had a goth phase, and if you say you didn't, you're a liar.
I'm not talking about the goth phase though. I'm talking about becoming a
A
supervillain.
villain. Well, the show blamed that on Sunburst.
I suppose it did, but I mean,
Yeah.
she was a kid. Parents got to intervene somewhere. I don't know. I feel like I would have been able to see the writing on the wall if my kid was about to become a supervillain and
Look,
try to do something about that.
It's not always the parents' fault that someone becomes supervillain. Just like how it's not Fluttershy's parents' fault that Fluttershy got better. She did that on her own in her own adult life and late childhood. It's the same thing. I think Starlight's dad did a good job raising her, but in her young adult and early adult life, she went through challenges that messed her up and led her down that bad path. It's not because her dad screwed up.
The only thing we were missing out of that is seeing Starlight with the dark mascara and stuff and saying, like, life is pain.
How could this happen to me? Copyright.
Everyone thought Luna was the emo pony. It was Starlight all along.
All
Yep.
right, let's flip the script here and real quick go down the other end here. So, what are the best examples of parenting techniques we saw out of Friendship is Magic, and why? Alex, what do you think?
Alex?
Okay, I'm about to throw you a curveball. Even though we saw
No, you.
least amount of screen time with them, Silver Stream, because now we have two parents that are supposed to be playing the roles of the separated parents.
Oh,
One who wants to be
yeah.
a hippogriff, the other one that wants to be the sea pony. And Silverstream seems to be absolutely fine with this. And I think that she has accepted that her parents want to live two separate lives, and be their own people. And whether we don't know that she has a stepdad and a stepmom or anything like that, but she seems to be okay with the decision that they've made, and it doesn't affect her at all. Again,
Well, it affected
as far
her
as
brother.
the kids go, the school kids, I think that Silverstream was probably again the most put together out of all of the pair there.
I actually realized there's two sets of families that we forgot had bad parents.
Yeah.
Who?
Sky Stinger and Vapor Trail.
They were more so bad for each other because whatever everything that Cordero said about the enabling, Vapor Trail did that for the other one. Sorry.
Sky Stinger and Vapor Trail were a codependent relationship because one had helicopter parents who were too supportive and doting, and the other had absentee parents who gave them nothing. So the child with the supportive parents found the kid who had nothing to support, and the kid who had nothing found someone to support them. So that really is, yes, another set of really awful parents.
But that
Hi,
was like
spoiled rich. You've got company.
All right.
that was like implied parent problems. Did they ever show their parents on screen? No, because they were at the Wonderbolt Academy.
Only in flashback.
Yeah.
Only
in
in
a short flashback, which is where the only information we have about them is from.
Because Sky Stinger was an only child, and Vapor Trail had like 30 siblings.
Very
Other way
unnoticed.
around, but
Oh, was it?
yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sky Stinger had 30 siblings and was one of the youngest and one of the middle children and neglected.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Um,
Listen, this could be
Vapor
a
Trail's parents literally had helicopter cutie marks.
this could be a positive thing. Clearly, they need to be a League of Legends bot lane duo with Vapor Trail as a support to Stinger's ADC, because their bot synergy would be amazing. They could climb to Challenger together.
Minus 10 points for referencing League of Legends on my stream.
Plus 1,000 points that this is the first time I've done it. I can't believe it took me this long.
I guess
understand that reference.
Yeah, thank you for holding back your cancer for a good year. All right,
I did it the best I could.
It was like,
it was too free. They clearly have bot synergy together.
okay. All right. Well, the rest
Those
of
are
us
words.
aren't nerds and don't know what you're talking about. Who are we on?
Says a guy running an MLP show.
Okay, and unlike anything League of Legends has ever
Wah,
produced, this is
wah.
good content. Otherwise, you wouldn't still be here. Okay. Call me out on my own show like that, punk. Who are we on? Who did I leave off on? I'm going for time here.
Well, you did Alex,
Listen.
and then Alex
Okay.
was the first one. You haven't done anyone else yet.
Okay.
Arcane is great. Arcane is great. That's all I'm saying.
DJ, good best parenting you've seen and why?
I'll throw another curveball in here. Pinkie Pie and cheese sandwich.
Okay.
Because we see that they have the one kid, who seems to get along pretty well with what essentially are, I would say, adopted cousins, with the pies. Pinkie brings him along to work, because she couldn't find a sitter, so she keeps him close, and he gets to see the great work she does, and he's happy, and he's bouncing around with his chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And from the looks of it, she's all covered in toys and glitter, so obviously she's an attentive parent because she's playing around with them all the time.
Yeah, that's
So that just makes me wonder if Cheese Sandwich is the straight man.
Oh, geez, that would be a super hectic.
Is Cheese the
household.
boring? Is Cheese the boring parent to?
No,
Pinkie's
they
fun
they
parent?
they
I think they take
100%
turns.
they 100% feed into each other like some sort of feedback loop.
Infinite party loop.
Yeah, and you ever hold a microphone up too close to an amp? That's what
Oh God,
that's
that's
what it's
them.
like having those two as parents.
Their kid's gonna be an
and
accountant.
once a month, they have serious days where neither of them tells jokes ever because they just have to take a break from the comedy.
Oh God, their kid's gonna be an accountant. They're too much craziness. They're gonna have like this super boring kid because he's sick of it.
No,
He's going to be the accountant that can tell the funniest jokes at the drop of a hat.
little cheese,
All in
little
a
cheese.
deadpan.
Little Cheese is going to be the inverse of Fluttershy to her parents, right? Little Cheese is going to be the subdued one, yes, but he's still going to be really crazy, according to all of his friends. And then they're going to come over for a birthday party or something, or just to do a study session and see how insane Cheese Sandwich and Pinkie are, and go, "Oh, I get it now."
Yeah. What's
Also,
his
yes,
name?
Paladin
Did they
Pony,
give the kid a
Pinkie-
name?
Little Cheese.
Little Cheese.
Wrong. It's Gouda
He's
Pie.
a boy.
How did they miss that one? It's Gouda Pie.
How good
You
of
mean
you?
Cheesecake?
They're literally wrong. I'm changing the name to the correct one.
Why not cheesecake?
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So Paladin
But yes,
Pony
it is a
Cheese
boy,
said,
despite looking very, very much of a feminine foal. But
Well,
Gouda
no,
Pie is a pun, though.
well, that's what I'm trying to say here is because Paladin Pony T asked that as well, and yeah, everybody thought Little Cheese was a filly. But afterward, Jim Miller came out and said no, he was written in the script as a colt. Now, granted, he doesn't have any lines, and then the animators just basically the animators messed that one up. So yeah, however, or you can take it of Little Cheese didn't have any lines and was given a filly's body, female. It doesn't really matter. There were no lines. The story's over. Moving on. Let me see here. Hariman. Best parenting in Friendship is Magic.
I'm torn between the Apple parents, Pinkie Pie's family, and the entire damn town for Scootaloo because that kid would have ended up broken without everybody involved in helping her grow up.
All right. Anybody want to add or take away from that?
can we really say the Apple parents when they're dead? They never really got a
Well-
chance to prove to be parents.
Yeah, kind of tuxedo
Well-
mask parenting. You didn't do anything.
I blame the Avalanche.
I mean, I guess if you want to say the Apple parents, you could say Applejack and Big Mac for Apple
Yeah.
Bloom, because
Yeah,
essentially they're
I-
her parental figures.
or just Granny.
Along with Granny Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Granny's
add
just
them
over
to
there
my
sitting in the
list.
corner, rocking in her chair.
I agree. I agree with the Rock family one. Like I'm officially going with that. The Rock parents, rock
Alright.
solid foundation, and strong religious moral foundation. Brony, I can't believe. How did you not? I don't know.
Because Amish isn't canon in the show. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I
The Amish
gotta.
aren't kosher.
Yeah, I have no excuses. I gotta take the L on that one. All right.
Yep.
Best parenting for me, I would say. I mean, shoot, I can't really say anything that's already been said. We've already been over it. I do think.
Did we have cruisers?
Cruiser, did you say one yet?
No.
The best.
Okay. Well, go for it, and maybe I'll think of something better than
Do
just.
you have one?
Yeah.
Me.
Great.
Cruiser's best parent, confirmed canon.
Yes, my cats. All my cats will tell you.
He bought the best parent cup himself because he deserved it.
If I had to actually pick one, you guys actually made a really good point with Pinkie Pie's parents and Silverstream's parents. To be honest with you, but honestly, I'd have to probably go with Silverstream's, because I remember how they handled Terramar and how he didn't know what side he wanted to be, and both his parents, despite being separated, came together and said, "You can be either one. You don't even have to pick one." And I just thought that was really important to tell a child who's in that sort of situation. So I'm going to go with Terramar's parents.
Yeah. Divorce handled well.
Yeah.
Okay. So once again, I'm between a few. I feel like Twilight's parents were really well balanced, and didn't really turn out. I mean, Twilight's anxiety was mostly self-inflicted from what I could see. But I could definitely also see where she would get it from her father, but that's not really her father's fault. Then there's Ocellus had really good supportive parents that did a good job of connecting with her. And not so much the best, but I admire Grandpa Grover. Of the Griffins, for trying to be there for the orphan that is Gallus, and trying to essentially lead Griffinstone just by virtue of being the oldest and wisest and possibly even toughest there. You could tell he definitely had like issues from, his old culture influencing his behavior, but you could also tell he was trying, and he was still willing to throw down and come to the defense of Gallus when it was necessary.
Well, until that one episode.
Which one?
Oh, it was when Starlight was looking for a co-principal.
Yeah,
And he was at a parent-teacher conference
yeah,
and didn't really care that he wasn't doing good.
And got in the fight with Trixie. Well, and that's what I'm talking about of like remnants from his culture and just being old and set in his ways. But he was still there, and he just didn't see it as much of an issue. I don't know. I shouldn't be trying to justify that. I just admire the effort. So I'm not saying Grandpa Grover is the best. I'm just saying I admire the effort. But my definite best would be between Ocellus, or maybe even Yona's parents seem to have a similar sort of thing, that dynamic as Ocellus's parents or Twilight's parents. And the
Grandpa
last
Gruff, that was the name.
Gruff, thank you very much. Yeah, King Grover was the king. Anyway.
The old charmer.
Yeah. Anyway, last question I want to ask here is for Alex. Alex, because a lot of the episodes and a lot of the examples we gave tonight aired before you had kids. are there any tips that you took from the show and tried to apply to how you're going about things now as a parent?
Um, I don't think directly, because it's been more kind of subconsciously. It was just everything happens on the fly. I think
Working
I'm
off
pulling
instinct.
yeah, I think I'm pulling off biological coding here in my brain because it seems to be just working out, and I'm not sure how that's happening.
Mm.
But I'm a strong believer that in order to succeed as a parent, you need to be able to give your child all the same opportunities, if not more, that you had. Uh, do not try to live vicariously through your child. Um, and just to basically accept them for who they are or who they want to be, to support them. Whether that, if you just need to bite your tongue sometimes, but just
Mm.
I don't know. We're all puny, and we just need to live happy lives.
Alrighty then, and with that, let's get into audience participation. So I have seen a couple of new names in the chat. I hope you're all enjoying the show if you're still tuned in and watching with us. I see it's Noah Harris's birthday, so happy birthday, Noah. He's been a viewer for a long time.
Happy birthday.
Yep.
What they said.
And now then, let's hopefully you guys have seen some more interesting comments. I've got a
I
few
see one
here.
before you get into it, if you'd like, Brony.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
The most recent one from Paladin Pony T. Queen Chrysalis as a bad parent.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that I had saved.
Ooh.
Definitely qualified. I mean, we talked about having, screwing up so bad that you make Starlight glimmer, but imagine having Chrysalis as a mother.
Yeah.
Imagine having literally.
She did make a good queen. She did make a good king.
Imagine having literally 1,000 brothers, and she cares about none of you.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine being thrown at Canterlot. Like, okay, we have no strategy. We're just going to overwhelm them with numbers. Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
She's not a mother. She's a World War I general.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Who just gives birth a lot.
She birthed her army.
Well,
They're not
given
even
that
kids to her.
given that Ocellus has parents, I think it's implied that all of the changelings can have kids, but the Chrysalis was claiming parenting rights for the entire hive as the queen.
I think it's implied.
And not allowing them.
I think it's implied that at some point in time the writers stopped communicating with each other.
Yeah,
I
can't argue with that.
I honestly never even noticed that plot hole.
I think that answering the question of, wait, can they mate can they have kids individually, or is it like a hive egg queen situation? I think answering that question is too many awkward details, so they're like, we could just fucking ignore it, and that's what they went with, because demographic.
Yeah, that makes sense in its own right here. Sun Chaser said, what are everyone's thoughts on Rainbow Dash's parents? Sorry if it was already covered, I came in late. Basically, we think Rainbow Dash's parents are overbearing, and the lesson of that episode got shortchanged when her parents didn't have any accountability for their actions. Let's see here. Snowflake, which is a name I've never seen in the chat before, so welcome, Snowflake. I hope you're enjoying the show. Do we see Celestia as a mother figure?
I do. And I think that's where Twilight gets her neuroticism from, because Celestia shows that kind of neuroticism in, I think, the 7th season, first episode, where you get the flashback of Celestia worrying about Twilight going to Ponyville.
Mm-hmm. Now that is
that Twilight would have seen.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
I don't think Twilight saw it, but I think that Celestia passed it on to Twilight without realizing it because of their time together, where Celestia was essentially a second mother to her.
Hyperspeed Fox. If Chrysalis is the mother of the changelings, who is the father? Chrysalis is an aphid. She's literally born pregnant. All right, but
In theory, we think.
Go ahead.
If you want the answer, just go to DeviantArt.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Cordero.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, that pretty much answers the Chrysalis thing. Like it's asexual mass breeding. But to the previous question, I don't know how to answer that one without just getting into my headcanon and fan fiction.
Get into your headcanon. Not your fan fiction though. We'll plug that later.
Yeah. Well, Celestia is a parental figure for Twilight, and in my headcanon, because it's in my fan fiction, Celestia was also a parental figure for Sunset Shimmer, but she was too much of a direct parental figure. She was too much of a mother, and that's what led to Sunset Shimmer being spoiled somewhat and getting a sense of entitlement, which led to her fall. And Celestia knew that was partly her fault. So when Twilight came around, when she had a chance to try again with the whole personal student and possible successor, she took a more hands-off approach, which was easier because Twilight already had parents active in her life, so she could have a more hands-off, indirect approach. So when she sends Twilight off to do stuff and learn for herself, that's part of that indirect approach that she's going with, where it was harder with Sunset, because in my headcanon and story, Sunset is an orphan who didn't have a mother, so Celestia stepped into that role, and that ended up causing problems. Read my fan fiction!
It's linked in the description right there at the bottom of the links of Pony Cordero. It's pretty good. I actually do recommend it. Who in the main... Snowflake also asked, who in the main six would make the best parent in your opinion? So I think we sort of decided on Pinky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That or Applejack.
I don't know.
Of the main six, who's the best parent?
Yeah.
Would be or is?
Would
Because
be.
we'd have to include that Applejack. It would be Applejack and Rainbow Dash.
No, we
The
don't.
parents.
They're
Yeah,
Fluttershy.
just friends.
Yikes.
I literally have a pair of tomboy friends who are close, like Rainbow Dash and Applejack are, and they're both married to guys.
Hilarious. Well, I hate to be a Fluttershy stan again. This is becoming a theme on the show, but I'll say
Discord would not be a good parent.
Fluttershy. Well, maybe not Discord, but Fluttershy would be an amazing parent.
Yeah, but that was also Hyperspeed Fox's first question. He says, I think Discord would make a good parent. And I don't think, like, you can't just have one good parent. Like, if one of you is bad, it's going to drag the other down more often.
I don't think Discord would be bad. I don't think Discord would be bad.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
I mean, he'd be crazy and chaotic at times, but I think Fluttershy grounds him. And I think having a literal family with Fluttershy would ground him even further, not to the point where he has to disappear, because if he becomes too normie and boring, he literally disappears in canon. But I think he would be good to his kid. He would still be a little bit of his trolly asshole-ish self, but I don't think it would be overly detrimental to the child. And I think Fluttershy would ground him and round him out.
Now here's
What even kind of a child would that be?
A chimera.
I think it'd be a pony. It'd probably be a pony.
Could probably be a shapeshifter, whatever it wanted to be.
Or something.
Here's what I picture of Discord as a father, of not only just not even being able to connect, but let me tell you a little bit about myself. It's probably a good thing that I'll very likely never have children, because because if I have to send them to public school, I promise you, with what I know about public schools, it would only take anything to push me over the edge. One bad teacher, one bad principal, one bad parent of a classmate, for me to have a serious problem. Now take that and multiply it by Discord. And that's what I imagine Discord would be like. It's like if anybody were to so much look, like he would be caring, like you say, Cordero, but he would be way overprotective. I imagine just somebody looking at his kid wrong and turning into a flower pot.
Now I'm imagining
Use it.
Discord being the equivalent of Mace Hughes.
Wow.
What do you guys
You
think
know,
about
it makes sense.
that?
I think
It
that
makes too much sense.
first of all, are you saying that you're Discord? And second of all, I would say that in that case, Heather/Fluttershy goes to all of the PTA meetings and they tell you nothing.
Well, perhaps, but like Heather would definitely tell me what was going on. What was going on, if anything.
She would figure out how to tell you what's going on in a way
Yeah,
that you wouldn't
But
explode.
I'm saying it would only take like one thing for me to turn into a supervillain. Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I am Discord. I'm saying that I would. You know where they're like, oh, in To Where and Back Again, where they're like, oh, they took Fluttershy. Where? You know?
Yeah.
Just
I think he'd grow into it. I think he would have growing pains, but I think Discord would grow into it. You could make a whole arc out of that. It'd probably be pretty good.
It probably would be pretty good. It's almost like we should have had more than 9 seasons. Alex, who do you think of the main 6 would be the best parent?
I'm kind of on the Pinky and Applejack kind of side of it. Whereas I think they're the most grounded ponies, no pun intended, being Earth ponies, but I think Applejack would instill good work ethics, and being honest is always the best policy. Pinky, would always instill you gotta have fun. Always, there's no point in living if you're not going to have fun and enjoy yourself. And, and I think no matter what situation they're in, Pinky's always going to manage to find it. Laughter is the best medicine. So that's about as far as it goes with me. And touching on a point with what Brony had said earlier about public school, I'm kind of in the same boat with, I don't really agree with what's going on in the public school system. And, unfortunately, I'm in a position where my children are going to have to be going to public school. And not that there's anything wrong with that, because you can't tell me that public school did not shape you in some way, shape, or form as you are as an adult. It's very character building, and I think you get a lot of patina from public school. But I'm going to make my kids very aware that the public school is there to teach you to pass a standardized test, not to give you life lessons and, functional knowledge.
My public school experience looked like a freaking Jet Li movie. I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
Yeah, you've told me stories. But hey guys.
Yeah.
Who of the main 6 would make the worst parent?
I've got to flip this up.
Rainbow Dash.
Yeah,
Rainbow Dash.
That's gotta be unanimous.
Rarity.
I was gonna say that either Rainbow Dash or Rarity, because Rainbow Dash would be like live up to my example, or
get good, kid.
Yeah, and Rarity would be too busy running her own businesses, right? Rarity would be very absent.
Exactly.
Rarity can't even maintain a dating life, much less a child.
I know it. Rarity would try to be a good mom, but she would be.
I'm going to counter that with Twilight, actually.
Ooh, she's a good aunt, though.
Good aunt, but I don't think she would make a good parent, because not only of her own neuroticisms, which sure she got over, but they're still there. 2, she is head of the country.
You're living in the biggest shadow the world has.
Oh, you think she's gonna Catherine the Great her kid and like be so busy with her own stuff that she never actually raises the next monarch, or just raises her child very well?
Or the child
more
could
likely
be
than not, it would end up being Spike's responsibility.
Yeah, and and
he's got his own stuff too.
And that kid's gonna walk around. That kid's gonna walk around with a huge target sign on its head.
Oh, true. I think season 9 Spike, post season 9 Spike would make a good parent. So I think the kid would turn out well if Spike takes on nanny duties.
Yeah, but that would mean Twilight is no longer considered the parent of her own biological child.
Right, but at least it would work out. But she could still both be a bad parent and her kid turns out all right because thank you, Spike.
Yeah.
It might be that the grandparents raised the child instead of Twilight.
Yeah, a lot of Velvet involvement in Nightlight.
Tony
So
Clark.
creates a Twilight clone.
Real quick here. Tony Clark says, "Why isn't Lyle Convoy in this video?" I didn't know he had kids, and also he doesn't really know that much about Friendship is Magic, so he wouldn't have been a good fit. As much as I value his opinion on a lot of things. All right, and one more thing. One more thing, just like 20 seconds here. What do we think about Lord Torch as a parent?
Who's Lord Torch?
Dragon.
Ember's
Oh,
dad.
that guy.
He's actually really good as a parent.
Yeah.
He was
might
really
be
good as a
kind of-
ruler.
He might be old-fashioned, but when his daughter comes up and says, "I did this through my own type of strength," he said, "Great, you're king now.
Yeah.
Congratulations."
Yeah, he was open to new ideas. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, even as DWK said, he's pretty chill dude. Why
Yeah.
can't he still be ruler?
Good leader, yeah, right?
I'm
And
pretty sure he
good
was
leader,
ruler
good
for a
dad.
good like 500 to 1,000 years. So.
Something like that.
okay, so Paladin Pony T earlier asked, "Are there any stories about your parents that you would like to share with us?" And I'm going to translate this as something your parents did that had an effect on you. It could be positive or negative. I'll go first on this one. My mother would, if her boys were messing up, which was often, and also being way shorter than all of us, would say, "Bring your head down here," and we would have to bend over, and she would slap us on the back of the head. It's called the Italian discipline. And shortly after I started getting into combat sports, I started developing some reflexes. And then one day when I was 13, I thought it would be good to duck and weave. So she goes, "Bring your head down here," and I ducked the first slap, and then I ducked the second slap, and then I ducked the third, and she goes, "Oh, you think you're funny, don't you, right?" And then I ducked the fourth, and I started laughing, and she juked me out with the left and clocked me clean across the room with her right when I didn't see it coming. And so it was on that day that I learned that there are only three things a warrior fears. One being their god, the other being their wife, and the third being their mother.
I mean, you did get outboxed by your mom.
Yeah. And there was another time, and we were just telling the story recently that Nona, my grandmother, my mother's mother, we were over there and visiting, and apparently I was picking on my younger brother and my younger cousins. Now, that's not entirely accurate. I never started it with any of my siblings.
Okay.
But I sure as heck finished it. But obviously Nona doesn't see that side and just sees me antagonizing my younger brother and my younger cousins. And Nona, at 75 years old, runs into the room, tackles me, and pins me to the ground. Absolutely unable to get up. Just completely out wrestled by a 75-year-old woman. Point is, don't mess with the Italians. So that's
why the mob rules.
Yep, those are my stories there. Anybody else want to share one before we move on?
I don't know. Italy did pretty bad in World War I and World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, actually, yeah. I when I was a kid, I got picked on a lot, and I mean really bad. It got to the point where people would actually wait for me after school to jump me. And my father was a cop at the time, and it got so bad that my dad pulled into my school in his cop car, walks up to the principal in his cop uniform, slams his hands on the desk, and goes, "Either you do something about this or I will." And he then takes out a pair of handcuffs and goes, "I will start arresting kids today."
That's pretty cool.
Well then.
Yeah, that's when you know your father loves you.
I got a similar story to that, but it's not nearly as good. My father just, when I had to defend myself and they were threatening to expel me for self-defense, my father said, "How many lawsuits you guys want?" Right? So, but that just pretty much gave me free range to get into so many fights throughout my high school years because nobody's gonna mess with Brony because anyway, anybody else want to share anything?
I don't have any funny stories like that with my parents. My parents are pretty normy.
I'm glad to hear that.
I've definitely got a lot to thank my parents for. Thankfully I was just blessed with two of the best ones. I guess I could just pick one from one because I've got so many stories like this. But I guess one from my father was a lesson about keeping it cool. Because he used to always I never really figured it out until I was older. But the joke with him was, "Do you see me sweating?" Like any time the family was in a stressful spot or in a hard spot or anything like that, he was always level-headed about it. And I just never got it 'cause my mother would always panic or lose her head or anything like that, and he would just especially my sister too. But I'd always look at him and he's like, "Do you see me sweating?" And he would explain to me. He's like, "Well, here's why I'm not worried," and give me the details. And you see, like if you keep a level head, the picture is almost always clear, and there's no need to incite a panic. So that was good for me, keeping level under pressure. And then for my mother, probably one of the better lessons that I ever got was learning to laugh at your trauma, because laughter is the best medicine. I keep telling you that. It's just no matter what spot you're in or whatever, there's always some silver lining to it, or an angle you can see it to where it is kind of funny. If you break your arm, you were probably doing something stupid. Laugh at that. Don't be depressed that you broke your arm. Obviously it doesn't apply to every situation, but most of them, yeah, you can find it funny, and then you can move on with your life, or you can look back for pretty much anything you've done, and it was a point in your life that you can't really do anything about it now, but you can kind of cope with it now because you can kind of sit back and see where everything went wrong, or what you did wrong, or what somebody else did wrong. It was kind of funny. I don't know. So those are the lessons that are pops up to my head all the time. Just, stay cool, laugh at your trauma.
All right. Does anybody else want to share any?
Well, for perspective, I'm going to give you an overview of my childhood. Because my childhood, for the first half, was Scootaloo's childhood, with my parents working 6 days a week and barely there the rest of the time for me. So I get where Scootaloo is coming from with absentee parents. But once a couple of my other siblings moved out and my parents had more free time, my mother started doting on me horribly like Rainbow Dash's parents. So I get both sides of that coin, and neither side is good and neither side is fun. And all the good parenting stories I can remember are from people who aren't my parents. And I can't really think of any offhand. But that's my perspective on it. And speaking of the three things to fear, Brony said the three things that a warrior fears, which are a good set. The quote that I heard is the three things that the wise men fear, which are the sea in a storm, a night with no moon, and the anger of a gentle man.
Yeah, that's I can agree with that as well. And it's probably actually more accurate than what I said.
Yeah.
So unless DJ, did you have anything you wanted to share, or should we wrap it up?
I got nothing.
All right. In that case, let's wrap it up. Alex, thanks you so much for coming onto the show. I know it was kind of last minute that we invited you out here too. Did you have fun tonight?
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure for being here, and I'm always glad to be a guest anywhere. So, if you ever need me again as an emergency guest, I'll just let me know.
Certainly. Real quick question then. What kind of topics do you like talking about so I can keep you in mind?
Oh, pretty much anything. Because everything can be debated one way or the other.
Cars. He's a big car guy.
Yeah, cars. I can do cars or anything locomotion. Just running places, the logistics of things. I don't really like to tend to talk about politics or religion, but
Oh, darn,
any
those are my favorite.
philosophies or mythology, anything like that, I like to talk about.
Okay.
But just if you're in need of a guest, shoot me the topic over, and I'll see if I can make time.
Sounds good. And can you tell me one thing you learned tonight?
That's a good one.
He learned your name.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
If anything, we were learning from him because he's the parent, not us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was kind of, and when he had first shot me the topic, I was assuming that there was going to be more parents on the panel, and it was going to be how My Little Pony influenced parenting and why people are doing it wrong versus what's wrong with the parenting inside the show. I was kind of thrown for a curveball there because I was prepping for those kind of questions, not in the show, and I would have definitely brushed up if I knew that was going to be what we were discussing. But
All right.
I think I put my points in, and everybody got their 2 cents from them, if any.
Yeah, it was. You did really good. Hariman, did you get everything you wanted to out of this topic tonight?
I got everything I wanted and more. And now that we've had the debate, I'm actually a lot closer to 50-50 on the parenting in Friendship is Magic because there were a lot of good examples that I forgot, especially like Silverstream's parents, where they're the amicable divorcees, and Pinky's parents, and a couple others.
Yeah, the bad ones tend to stand out.
The bad ones tend to get entire episodes.
Yeah, it's true too.
Because that's how long it takes to fix a problem. Anyway, Harriman, can you tell me one thing you learned tonight? Or did that qualify as what you had learned tonight?
That's the biggest takeaway
All right.
I have from tonight.
Cordero, what do you got for us? What did you learn tonight?
Oh, I was thinking about that, and everything I can think of, like parenting is hard, parenting is complicated, there's a lot of factors involved, there's good and bad parents in MLP, all of those takeaways, I realized that I already knew those before the show started, so I guess I didn't learn anything. Complete
Yep.
Applejack style.
Yeah, Quiet Storm beat you to it in the chat. Cruiser, what'd you learn tonight?
If I ever have kids, ask advice to Alex.
DJ, what'd you learn tonight?
Learn that there's still more fan fiction potential in these, because we know nothing.
And I learned that the Pie family are in fact good parents. All right, so thanks again to you guys for coming out. Thanks to everybody who watched. If you want to be on the show, I'd love to have you. Let's just get you on my Patreon for $1 a month, and there your topic suggestions get priority, and you can come on the show, and you get to pick the games for Friday Night Fights. I'm very grateful to all of my Patreon supporters, especially the $10 tiers, such as Princess Heather Blossom, Shady Oak Ministries, Sid McConroy, Autoknight, Emerald Spencer, Sodden Girder, Senko, Kyle Christensen, DJ Skywalker, who joined us tonight, Rein-Kun, Morningstar, Pony Cordero, who's joined us tonight, QFlash, Billy Henline, Alden MacManx, Easy Mode Gamer, Sophia, Bootleg Bard, and Malcontent, author of the Metaverse series. Check out all their links in the description. Most of them make some pretty good content themselves. Alex, thanks again for coming on. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. God bless. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you tomorrow night on Princess Heather Blossom's channel for Chaos and Crocheting, and then next week, Friday, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Friday Night Fights. Say goodnight, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Later.
Good night.